Hi friends, this is DVR again. In our earlier discussions under electrostatics, we tried to understand the basics of electrostatics in terms of charge and with various examples in day-to-day life. We also tried to understand the kinds of charges that are available. Before getting into complex problems of understanding in electrostatics, in this session we will try to understand the basic segregation of materials as far as electricity is concerned. Most of the substances in nature are broadly classified into two categories. One set is called conductors, the other set is called insulators. The difference is very clear. Which allows conduction of electricity, that is, which allows the flow of charge through it, is a conductor, which conducts. The other one is which stops conduction, which does not allow the flow of charge to pass through, that is basically insulator. This is a broad segregation. Now we will try to deeply understand each one separately. Suppose you take a conductor. So just now I defined that a conductor is a material which is used to carry the charge from one place to the other. If you will see the long form of periodic table, there are a number of metals available there, like silver, copper, iron, aluminium, mercury. All these are very good conductors. Even earth is a very good conductor. And interestingly, our human body is a very good conductor. Conductors need not be in one form, like a solid form alone. There can be conductors which are in liquid form also. We call them as liquid conductors. For example, if you see some solutions of some specific salts, salt solutions, or some acids, or some alkalines, these are all liquid conductors. So there are a number of available conductors in nature. Now before proceeding to insulators, here let me explain how this will happen, how a conductor allows the charge to flow. Who will carry this? Let us try to understand. For example, if you take a metal, we study always, we used to hear that metals have a free surface. What is meant by that? In a metal, there will be large number of electrons, free electrons, moving randomly as charge carriers. How to understand this is very simple. You might have studied in your lower classes that if you take an atom, the basic is very clear. Central part is the nucleus, under which nucleons are there, electrons are revolving. That means the electrons are bound to the atom. The orbitals, if you take the outermost orbital, the electrons present in the outermost orbitals, we do define them as valence electrons, because they can easily get away. So these valence electrons in an atom, which are part away from the nucleus, means they are the force of attraction or force of pulling by the nucleus towards itself, towards its side, is very less, because the electron is getting away from the nucleus. So these far away or part away electrons residing in valence shell, that is orbitals, outermost orbitals, they move randomly. Now when they move randomly, collision takes place, momentum transfer takes place, they try to get away as far away as possible. So that happens when there is a random motion. But interestingly, normally, generally what happens is, these electrons, they just cannot leave the metal. They are bound, nucleus will hold them together. So unless you excite them to get out of the nucleus attraction, they cannot come out. So somehow we have to make these electrons bound to the nucleus to get excited by absorbing some additional charge or additional energy to get away from the nucleus, to escape from the nucleus. So therefore, whenever there is a collision, I just now explained the momentum transfer takes place. You all know, for example, an atom, if it loses an electron, it becomes an ion. So whenever these free electrons, when they are moving together, like an electron gas together moving, you can imagine it as an electron gas. whenever they collide with another particle or another ion, they move further randomly in all directions. So, whenever a charge moves, we all know that electricity is created, electricity is generated. Suppose if you subject this electron to an external electric field, that means an electron is moving, on either side you applied some extra electric field. Then what will happen is, this free electron try to drift away from the electric field. That means it works against the applied electric field, which means whenever a randomly moving electron is subjected to an external electric field, this free electron gets further excited and try to drift away against the applied electric field. So, when these electrons are going away, only few of them are left. So, the remaining residual atoms made up of the remaining nucleus are bound to these electrons. They are held in their fixed positions and they are bound to the remaining atoms, as I said earlier, because they are held in fixed positions, constitute something what we call as bounding charge or bounded charges in the conductor, because they cannot move. Those who can move, they have already gone away. Remaining are bound together. So, these electrons try to transfer their energy to other parts. It is very simple. You have number of definitions. You have studied about oxidation and reduction. In your high school level, you also studied something called LEOGER, loss of electrons, gain of electrons. So, whenever there is an excess charge, it tries to donate it away to become neutral. Whenever it requires some energy, it becomes an acceptor. So, it takes and then become neutral. This is how it works. So, transfer of electron takes place. Remember, charge moving means transfer of electron takes place. This is what normally happens in a conductor. Hope you understood this. On the other hand, in an insulator, for example, it prevents the charge to move through. That is interesting thing. That means it cannot conduct. It may be also treated as a poor conductor. Means compared to conductor, insulator is a poor conductor. In that context, we have to take. For example, number of metals are there: glass, rubber, plastic, ebonite, mica, wax, paper, wood. These are all poor conductors of electricity. That means there are many number of free electrons available. As I told you earlier, try to recollect, for current to produce, electrons should move. To get produced, you need electrons to move. When the electron can move, the electron should be free enough. So, if there are more number of free electrons, more can flow randomly, more electricity can come. This is the logic. So, that happens in a conductor, in a metallic process. Here in an insulator, there are not many free electrons. In fact, negligibly, very small number of electrons are available freely to move. Therefore, conduction is highly not possible. We can't say impossible, highly not possible. So, because there is something called semi, at a later stage you will get conductor and insulator, in between you have a semi concept. That is why I said it is not easy to get away, right. So, in an insulating material, there will be negligibly small amount of free charges. So, with that small amount of free charges, random motion is highly difficult to achieve and conduction is also very difficult to achieve. So, hence the name dielectrics. Insulators are also called dielectric materials. So, when you transfer charge to a conductor, for example, I have taken a conductor, let us say call this a pen as a conductor. So, I have transferred charge, used this conductor to transfer charge from one place to the other. So, the moment I try to give a charge to a conductor, charge gets distributed along the conductor. Over the entire surface, the charge gets distributed in a conductor. In contrast, if this happens to be a dielectric or insulating material, if you put some charge here, right, it stays here only. it will not get transferred. I am again repeating. If this is a conductor, if you give charge to this conductor, because of the availability or presence of number of free electrons on the surface randomly moving, the charge you have given gets distributed across all corners of this conductor. Entire surface gets distributed. This is what happens in a conductor, right? On the other hand, if this happens to be an insulator, if you give a charge to this, because there are no free electrons to act as carriers to the charge to be transported, therefore, whatever charge you have given at a place tries to remain there only. It stays at the same place. This is the basic difference you have to understand between a conductor and an insulator. Insulator is also called a dielectric material. Suppose you have given, for this conductor, you have given a charge. I told you that the charge given to a conductor, because of the presence of free electrons moving randomly inside, the charge gets distributed. Now, if the other end, if you make it to touch the earth, which is called grounding, touching the earth is called grounding, the charge gets leaked to the earth, because earth is also a very good conductor, I told you. Now, why I quoted this example is, in a domestic electrical wiring system, if you see, there will be 3 wires, 3 different colors will be used. One is called phase, which is called live, phase, neutral and earth. Phase, neutral and earth. So, among them, 2 will be carrying the charge. 2 will be carrying the charge. So, earthing is very important. Why? Because the draining of charge, quickly draining to ground is very important to avoid accidents, electrical fire accidents. That is the reason why when you are using gadgets like air conditioning, geyser or refrigerator, etc., when you have a 3-phase connection, you are supposed to have proper earthing connection to that house or building. Normally, you have to dig a hole to the ground, lot many chemicals, in fact coal and salt and other materials along with copper will be, copper rods will be digged in, and this earthing wire is connected to that, so that any excess voltage that is developed across the connections in a house gets quickly drained to the ground to avoid major accidents. So, this is how charge transports from one location to the other location. Okay. To detect the presence of a charge, you might have studied gold leaf electroscope experiment. Okay. Now, in the coming session, we shall see how to detect the presence of an electric charge, which was known as gold leaf electroscope experiment, and then we will try to see how charge can be quantized, which requires some diagrammatic explanation also. So, in further sessions, as I said earlier, whenever explanation requires a diagram or a pictorial representation, we will try to make use of the resource called blackboard or any other material. So, if for any all theoretical explanations, we will try to have in the same mode. Okay. So far I have explained about the segregation of conductors and insulators and how charge gets distributed. So, in the next session we will see a gold leaf electroscope experiment, how it is being carried out, how charge is being detected, and then how charging can be done. Charging can be done, we shall see in detail, either by conduction or by induction. So, I will explain what is charge by conduction and what charge by induction by means of a schematic approach. Schematic or diagrammatic or pictorial approach can give you a better understanding. Okay. We shall continue there in the next session. Okay.